Okay, so we have already started discussing on the very interesting phenomenon called the Brownian motion. In my previous class, we have seen some videos where the Brownian motion is being demonstrated with the help of a video connected to a microscope, and uh, and we have made some preliminary discussion on that. So today we will make a somewhat more. We'll be basically seeing the Langevin theory, which is trying to explain the Brownian motion. So that is the idea. Um, so basically, what is Brownian motion? So Brownian motion started with the observation of a botanist, Robert Brown. So basically, initially it was defined as the motion of pollen grains in the water. Hmm? Um, and that was very curious. Later, it was extended to even inorganic particles like metal particles, etc. And it was generalized to some kind of movement of microscopic particles inside a liquid medium. Hmm? So that was what the Brownian motion necessarily stands for. Now, what are the general characteristics of Brownian motion? There are certain characteristics which we can note down for the Brownian motion which distinguish it from other kinds of motions. First and foremost, the motion is continuous. Um, it is random and it is irregular. Second point could be so in a Brownian system where we have the suspended particles, there are many particles like that. But if you observe very closely those Brownian particles, no two particles will have the same motion. No two particles execute same motion. Third point could be about the size or the mass of the particles. The observation is that if you take a smaller particle, they execute a faster motion or a more noticeable motion. The fourth point could be the motion is almost if you take the motion of or the movement of one of those suspended particles, you observe that the movement to the say the positive side and the negative side can ultimate at a long point of time can be taken to be same. So ultimately, the displacement of such a particle, the suspended particle, the Brownian particle, can be considered to be zero. Same in all directions. Um, so another thing would be this another observation about the Brownian particle is that as the temperature gets higher, the movement becomes more lively or more vigorous. So the Brownian motion is temperature dependent. So those are the 5 points which one can easily observe when discussing about the Brownian motion. So as I told you in the last class, it has been although it started with a botanist, later it became a huge puzzle for the mathematicians and the physicists. Um, it was a a solid theory or fairly good theory or a solution to this puzzle was initially provided by Einstein. Although many scientists did work on that, Einstein provided a fairly good solution or the explanation for this Brownian motion. In between, many scientists came through, and a better solution was later given by Langevin. So this is the history of the Brownian motion. Now, why did it become so attractive? As I told you, in the beginning of the last century, the concept of atoms and molecules were not clearly being settled. So it started from the Greek period, the Greek prominence period, like Descartes and all that. And they did suggested something like an atom or a basic structure, but it was not settled even till beginning of the last century. And then there was this kinetic theory of gases, and it suggested that gas particles are in constant motion and they do exhibit perfect elastic collisions. So the Brownian motion for the first time gave an experimental situation similar to the assumptions made as part of the kinetic theory. So that was the first significance. Kinetic theory of gases was experimentally being demonstrated. Something similar, right? The second one was that this explanation of this Brownian motion led to the determination of molecular masses. Those are the two main things which two main outcomes of the Brownian motion. So let's have an overview on the Einstein's theory. So basically, Einstein's theory tries to explain the Brownian motion in terms of the effects of random collisions between the molecules of the liquid and the suspended particles. This was already being dealt in the last our live class. It basically describes Brownian motion in terms of the effects of random collisions between molecules of the liquid and the suspended Brownian particles. So this was the this is the aim of this theory. So this is the theory is based on this reasoning. So there is this collision between the molecules of the liquid and the suspended Brownian particles, and that collision is indeed, or the bombardment is indeed responsible for the Brownian motion which was observed under the microscope. So the mathematical conclusion should meticulously take into account this kind of a bombardment and its effects completely. Hmm. Um, so in this direction, um, basically Einstein related the diffusion of particles to the properties of the molecules responsible for collision. Okay. Um, so that was that was his idea, that diffusion of the moment you describe the diffusion of molecules, it should be able to explain this Brownian motion. One of the good examples for the diffusion could be that in relation to the Brownian motion, of course, you take a beaker and with some water, put a drop of ink, say blue ink, on the surface. What happens? If it is if the water is in the normal temperature, you can see that pattern in which this drop of ink will be getting diffused into into this water. So you can see that pattern, right? The case will be different if the water is hot. It will be more faster. So definitely this movement of this or the diffusing of this ink down into this beaker, or through the water inside the beaker, is actually related to the hitting or the bombardment of the water molecules with the molecules of the or the particles of the ink. Ink particles are bigger. So there is a hitting, and so it is getting diffused. Okay. So indeed Einstein's theory is making such kind of a connection. Basically, he calculated the diffusion coefficient from the random motion of the suspended particle. So that was his left hand side. In the left hand side, he calculated the diffusion coefficient, which he named by capital D, from the random motion of the suspended particles. And in the right hand side, he equated that with the osmotic pressure between the different parts of the solution. So the osmotic pressure, you have studied it, you can verify it yourself. And so whenever there is a concentration difference between two parts of the solution, that leads to something called the osmotic pressure. So, so he equated basically those two parts, the diffusion coefficient, which was calculated from the random motion of the suspended particles, and the osmotic pressure between different parts of the solution, which was indeed caused by the difference in concentration of the suspended particles. For example, the ink in our thing. So because the moment you put the ink, there is a difference in the osmotic pressure, right? Because there is some region in which there is a concentration of this ink, blue ink particles, and there is a region in which there is lesser concentration. So there is an osmotic pressure. So he equated the capital D with the osmotic pressure. So that was the derivation, but we don't have to deal that in this course. So we are not dealing with that. In any case, his final expression is S squared is equal to Kt by 3 pi eta r into tau, where S squared is the mean square displacement. S squared is the mean square displacement. So which means that S is the displacement at a time tau. Okay. K is the Boltzmann constant, T is the temperature, and eta is the our what is that, the coefficient of viscosity, and r, small r is the radius of the suspended particle or the Brownian particle. Right? Yeah. K is the Boltzmann constant, as I told you. So this was the expression which the Einstein, with which the Einstein tried to explain the Brownian motion. So this was doing a fairly good fairly good work to explain the Brownian motion. But later, Einstein himself, of course, a lot of scientists suggested the kind of limitations which this Einstein's theory is showing, or the mistake which this Einstein theory is having. Later, Einstein himself accepted the kind of mistake which he performed while carrying out this derivation. There is a limit in which this equation can be applied. The problem with this limitation, with this Einstein's theory, was that here in this Einstein theory, basically the inertia of the particle is totally neglected. Inertia of the particle means the Brownian particle, of course, and the inertia of the Brownian particle is so in this kind of system, the inertia, when I am talking about inertia, it is the mass of that particle which plays the role of inertia. So this should be equivalent to the mass of the Brownian particle. So he didn't consider the mass of the particle at all. So what happens is that ultimately the mean square displacement is valid within a limit. If your measurement time or your observation time is very large, this equation is okay. But within small times, this equation was observed to fail. There's a very famous figure with which this gets demonstrated. So you know that this Brownian particle moves random, right? So if I take a particle like this over here, and if I track the movement of this, I get something like this. Okay, I am. So this particle is moving like this over here, here, here. So this is the real trajectory. These blue ones are my real trajectory. But if I apply the Einstein's theory, since this model can only be applied at a huge or a large time interval, what happens is that, of course, he measures this. Now I am editing on this image. Just go through the ones which are red over here. So he starts from here, but since he measures for after some time, he is not able to, his time intervals which are used in his derivation are not able to see these two the transitions, right? So this is the one particle. It moves out here, 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 here. So that is the real trajectory. But now he totally missed those two stops in which these particles went through. So from here he reaches here. So since the measurement is done, this assumption in this Einstein theory is having a large time, totally misses this one, this point, then it reaches here, then it reaches here, it reaches here. So see what is the kind of path which the Einstein theory is seeing. Just see through this red line only. So the blue trajectory, which I told you as the real trajectory, and the red trajectory, which would be the picture which the Einstein's theory is considering, is totally different. So therefore, the people demonstrated that he totally misses the point because he neglected the inertia of the particle, of the Brownian particle. So there was discussions, and later our so one of the basic problems is that the velocity, the velocity calculations out of the Einstein's theory totally gets out of our logical scientific beliefs. So that was the problem in which the Einstein's theory was supposed to be corrected. So the correction applied to that, the major correction applied to that came in the form of Langevin theory, which we will discuss in the next video.